Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of The Standard is the Standard. And to my left, I believe it's to my left, it's opposite my right, which would be my left. We have Bryan Anthony Davis, aka Who's Bad? What's up, Bad? Welcome to the program. How you feeling this evening?
I am feeling fantastic, Lance. Another day where I don't read my obituary online. I'm feeling pretty darn good. So that's a thing. And I actually have a very special anniversary coming up for me, and that shapes my life. And I'll
Yes.
just let you know. So today is the 22nd. So tomorrow will be 17 years for me, cancer free.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. You are a congratulations on that. I have quite a few members of my family who are cancer survivors. So congratulations to you on that, Bad. I know that is a really big deal, and congratulations to you.
Thank you. When this rolls around, it's something that I reflect on, and I realize how the little things don't matter. It's the big things that do, and how blessed I am in this world. So I love to celebrate this anniversary every year. And what I do, I turn on the Jimmy Valvano speech from the ESPYs, and the Don't Ever Give Up speech, and that's basically a how I live my life now.
Well, you're more tame than me. I'd have some shots, man, honestly. Hey, man, I'd have some shots. I'm not going to lie.
Sauce,
I'd be sentimental. Man, whatever your indulgence is, man, I would do it that day. I mean, hell. I mean, if you can't indulge on your 17th anniversary of being cancer free, I mean, geez, come on, Bad. Be bad. We're giving you license to be bad. So after you listen to Jimmy V, hey, man, break out the Jimmy Walker Blue and take a nice little shot of the good stuff, man. Because that's deserving of the good stuff. I mean, hey, I'm giving you license and free reign and permission to be bad. Be bad, man. It's your day. Get ape shit today. I mean, honestly. I mean, go ahead and do it. But again, congratulations to you on that, Bad. That is a remarkable achievement. So again, congratulations to you. We're with you in spirit, definitely on this show. And Kathy Fareed, she chimed in and said, "Congrats, fellow survivor," and congrats to you, Kathy, as well.
And I did not know that, Kathy. Blessings to you.
Yeah, you guys are a big group, man. You guys are fighters. You guys are warriors. And so again, congratulations to all of you. And also we want to send a big shout out to everybody that's joining us on the program. And I believe it is July 22nd, I believe.
Yes.
I've had so much work. I've thought it was the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th, all wrapped in one day. So I am surprised that I got the day right. So,
and can I say something about this day?
Yes.
The great Danny Glover's birthday today.
Oh, yes. Yes. Lethal Weapon, right?
Oh, yeah. My trivia team was called Danny Glover for years, and we had Danny Glover University t-shirts. And he's one of my absolute favorites because I'm a big Lethal Weapon guy.
Yeah, I'm a Die Hard guy, and Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I'm a huge Die Hard guy, but Lethal Weapon is up there too, and people don't realize that.
Yeah, there's so much there's a lot of things. I like Die Hard. So we watch Die Hard in A Christmas Story every Christmas. So I watch Christmas Story as if I've never seen it, and I just geek out like I watched it for the first time every single time. And then we watch all the Die Hards. I think it's like 4 or 5 of them now. I think it's 4 of them.
5.
There was one bad one in Russia. I know that was pretty bad.
That was a Live Free and Die Hard, I believe.
Yeah, that I love when they stretch titles literally and make it pretty bad. But we want to welcome all you guys on the program. If you want to contribute to the program, please like the show. And also, if you want to get your question to the top of the program, hit us with a super chat. We enjoy the contributions. Also, big up to the Oracle, Dave Schofield. Big up to Big Bro Sco. Big up to Tony Defio, Jeffrey Benedict, and to Mike Beck. On this particular topic, we're going to jump into this question, but we got a couple of items before we do that. But the question we're going to talk about on this show is one, simply, do analysts and the media still respect the Steelers? But before that, we have some news, Bad. Rookies have signed. How many rookies have signed and who's left to sign? And then I want to ask you a follow-up question to that.
Well, we have two left that have not signed. Chase Claypool signed today. We had Anthony McFarland Jr. We had Alex Highsmith, and we had Highsmith, McFarland, and who am I missing? Oh, the Brooks, Antoine Brooks Jr. has signed as well. So now we're looking at Kevin Dotson from Louisiana Lafayette, and we're looking at Carlos Davis as well. So those are the two fellas that have not signed yet, and that's probably coming really soon.
I suspect they'll sign pretty soon. But to follow up on that, Dave and Big Brosco talked about the lack of preseason and the impact on rookies. With no preseason, if you guys haven't heard, I'm sure all of you have heard because you guys are diehards. No preseason. What's your thought on the impact of no preseason on the rookie class? Does that temper your expectations for any of them to have a significant contribution? Do you think it doesn't matter? They'll still have a bust out. There'll be somebody that'll be great from this rookie class. Or do you think this is like a red shirt year for the rookie class? What's your thoughts, Pat?
It depends where you were drafted and what position and how deep it is. If you're looking at Chase Claypool, sure, that's a deep position, but you're still the number 4 guy. You're going to get opportunities because there's sometimes you have 4 receivers out on the field. So even though you're not going to be in a starting role, he's going to get some action. And we saw this. It took about 6 weeks for Martavis Bryant to get on the field back in 2014. And one of the reasons for that was because he was not quick to pick everything up. And he did have some issues. And it took him a while to get acclimated. But once he did, he had a fantastic rookie season once he got started, once Ben found him, got trust in him, and he got trust in him pretty quick. So I have a feeling that Claypool will be just fine, and they'll be looking to, in the little bit of time that they have together before the season starts, Ben will have to work hard to establish a rapport with him. When you have a skill position player like Anthony McFarland Jr., he's probably going to have a lot tougher time, but they're going to find ways to mix him in as the season goes on. But if you're a guy like Antoine Brooks, Carlos Davis, it might be a lot tougher to make the team. But the guys you really got to look at, that might be a red shirt season for those guys. But the guys that are really going to struggle to get in here would be a guy that's an undrafted free agent. A guy that came in on from another team that was dropped on a futures contract. Those guys are going to have a lot harder time getting in here. But as I'm saying here, it just depends. They're still going to want to work these guys in. But if you made a trade before the draft and did not have a number 1 pick, like Minkah Fitzpatrick is your number 1 pick, like Jalen Ramsey was the number 1 pick of the Los Angeles Rams, like DeForest Buckner was the number 1 pick of the Indianapolis Colts, basically. Those teams are not going to have the rookie blues as much because they're going to get more out of that number 1 pick than the other teams that got a real rookie.
I like your premise of where you're going, how it's dependent on the position. So let me just run through the class because I agree with you in some respects, and in some respects, I don't agree. I think Chase Claypool is going to have a very hard time having an impact because of 2 things. I think Eric Ebron will get those targets. So I don't think they're going to play 4 wide receivers much. I think they're going to play more 2 tight ends. So they'll play 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. I think they're going to play 3 wide receivers. They'll play 11 personnel or they'll play 12 personnel. So I don't think they're going to use 4 wide receivers often. Also, I think with the abbreviated amount of time when you have camp, unless they dumb it down a lot for him and he's just running go routes or 9s, I don't know how much they're going to use him, or they'll give him, I think, a very shrunken package. Red zone stuff. They'll try to put him in some situations where he could excel, but I don't think he's going to get a bunch of snaps. I think the veteran guys that Ben has some continuity with will get a bulk of those snaps. When I look at their class, though, I think where you have a running back that can make, or excuse me, not a running back, but a position that can make some hay, I think it's Alex Highsmith. I think Alex Highsmith can slot in as a situational pass rusher. Essentially, all you've got to do is just wind him up, and let him go like the Energizer Bunny. Point him towards the quarterback and just say, go get that guy. And spell Bud Dupree or TJ Watt when they need a blow, so he could just be a situational pass rush. But I think because of the lack of preseason and the lack of time to get rookies prepared, I don't think coaches will build enough trust with those guys to play those guys a bulk of snaps. And I think they're going to have an extended training camp. The games will be so, like, they may not dress, but they're going to use like those first couple of weeks of practice to kind of be an extended training camp session for young players. So I don't think we're going to see a lot from young players, but I don't think skill position guys are going to get many looks. I just don't think there's enough time, particularly with Ben having to get a rapport and a rhythm back with his guys, and that being paramount. I think you're going to give the bulk of the snaps to starters. There's just not enough time to get skill guys ready, in my opinion. I think you might see those guys integrated, more towards the middle of the season, back half of the season. But just think of James Washington and just think of the lack of impact he had his rookie season with a camp, with the preseason, and he's a second round draft pick, and he still really didn't make an impact on the team. And I just harken back to some of the statements that Cam Hayward made when he was coming in on a strike year, how he talked about he was just lost. He was clueless. It didn't slow down until the following season. And he said in that article, I think it was probably published, on Steelers.com, how he feels for these guys because he just doesn't know how these guys are going to get ready. However, I do think you could give Claypool a really reduced package, let him just run straight, jump high. If you come down with it, you come down with it. But I think they'll dumb it down for those guys.
They will. And I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. What's going to happen, though, as far as Claypool, is if he hauls in a big one and Ben feels that rapport, they're going to keep on trial by fire and giving him more opportunities to, take the lid off the thing.
You talked about something in several shows back when we were doing our prediction show and we were talking about COVID-19. You came up with something that I thought was genius that I have not heard anyone else say. You basically said, due to COVID-19, due to everything and how football teams are potentially going to have to prepare in a pandemic, and the thought that there may not be fans in the stands, and we'll talk about some news that came out around that bad teams are going to get hammered at home, that this is going to really just exacerbate who's good, who's bad. Who's bad? You see how I work that in? Who's bad?
Love it.
Who's bad? Who has veteran coaching staffs? Who has a veteran quarterback? So the cream in this environment will probably really rise to the top if you can manage the pandemic effectively in your locker room as well as stay healthy. Elaborate on that and your thoughts for people who did not hear you break that down.
So my theory is the better that a team is prepared, the more veteran a team is, the team that has less that they have to put together to complete the roster will probably do a whole heck of a lot better than the teams that need time to build a program. Also, I think, Lance, that you're going to see more teams at 4-12 and more teams at 12-4. I just think it's going to be top heavy and bottom heavy. So do you remember when the Steelers went to the Super Bowl, the last time they went to the Super Bowl in 2008? And I believe they finished the season at 12-4. The Patriots finished the season at 11-5 and did not make the playoffs that year.
Yes.
So what I'm looking at there being a lot of teams with really good records and less 8-8s. I think less 8-8s, less 7-9s. So it's going to be, they're going to be there, but it's going to be a lot at the top, a lot at the bottom. And there might be less fighting for that 7th playoff spot, and there's going to be some 7 and 9s probably competing for that playoff spot, just for the fact that you're going to have, I mean, if you're bad, you're going to be bad. If you're good, you're going to be really good. That's
and just
this year only.
And just imagine that if you're a team like the Bungles, I mean, well, the Bungles are typically bad anyway, but just mix in a new quarterback, a young staff. Think of Carolina as well. New quarterback, new head coach, new OC, new DC, completely new staff. That team is going to get pounded. I mean, because, I mean, the coaches have to get acclimated to just preparing a pro team and trying to do it in this environment. They're going to get absolutely hammered. And I agree with you, Bad. I think you're going to have, like, a Baltimore is going to be good again.
They will.
You know, Kansas City is going to be good again. If you're bad and you have no fans in the stands and Kansas City comes into your building, they're going to kill you. You know, if Patrick Mahomes and that offense can check into a play with like 5 seconds to go on the play clock because there's no volume or no noise in the stadium, you're going to get got. And they're going to get some teams really bad, really early in the season. I'm with you 100%. And that's the best sort of breakdown that I've seen in terms of someone looking at a season. The other thing I thought in terms of predictions was if you have a really good quarterback, if you have a solid quarterback early, and you don't really there's not a lot of moving parts with your offense, and you can get on page really fast, you're going to come out and tear teams up too. There are going to be some teams, I think, where the offense is ahead, but there's going to be some teams where the defense is ahead. And I think a team like the Steelers with that defense can get after some young teams with young coaching staffs and young signal callers. So the one thing I will say is this will be the most interesting season. I'm just going to put it out there that I will watch in the last 25. How this all works out will be very interesting. And that leads me to the Steelers have come out with their safety protocols for fans in the stands. And so the thought is that there are still going to be fans in the stands. I know there's been some stuff talked about, you know, Philadelphia, that may not happen. I thought I read somewhere there was a slight retraction to that. I think right now it's still up in the air. I think the NFL is trying to somehow piece this together to have fans in the stands. Let me read a couple of the things that they are going to put in place to have fans in the stands. Touchless restroom facilities. Well, let me just say this. I hope no one is touching you in the restroom anyway. I just want to say that. I hope that your experience in the restroom is pretty much touchless. And I hope you can still wash your hands somehow. Contactless payment options at all concession stands. Okay. Mobile ticketing procedures that make it easy to transfer tickets and receive information on health and safety measures being taken at the stadium. So that sounds like a text. And if you want to buy someone's ticket, they text you and you can buy Dave's ticket. Somehow that's kind of how that sounds. Installation of sanitizing stations. The north side of Pittsburgh and sanitizing. Somehow that does not mix. I am from the north side. I am from Pittsburgh. So I am saying that with love. I've been in Heinz a lot of times as you. Sanitizing and that kind of doesn't go when I think of football games and I think of Heinz Field. Hey, I'm a north side guy. You know, we're a little grimy. We're a little dirty.
Can I mention you mentioned the touchless restrooms? I have never seen anybody flush in Heinz Field, and I've been going there since the beginning.
I've never seen anyone wash their hands. And I will say this, I have gotten E. coli poisoning at several stadiums. I mean, it just happens. Like I almost go to stadiums and I expect to get a bad case of bubble gut because I had a bad hot dog. I almost expect it. It's like automatic. That's what happens. That's why half the time when I go, I just get peanuts. Right. So I read those safety measures. Let me ask you, You feel safe going to a game based on these safety measures put in place by the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I don't know if I do, but there's going to be plenty of people that don't share the same rationale that I do. I'm not saying they're wrong. They feel differently about it. As far as I'm concerned, I've got to go 3 hours to go to the game, and 3 hours when you go to a football game becomes 4.5 to 5 because you're dealing with traffic, getting out of there. And gosh, I went with Dave and Big Bro Sco last year, and just getting on the Clipper to get to your car it took over an hour. A Sunday night game, the Sunday night game against Buffalo, we got home at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, so Bad. Let me ask you a question. How productive were you the next day at work?
I didn't go. I had to call off.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. But, as far as the safety measures in the stadium, really, I don't. The only safety measure is to say no fans, because this is good. This is saying, okay, we're trying. Doesn't say how hard they're trying, but what it says to me is like, this is what we're going to do, and hopefully this will work so we can get you in there. That's what they're doing. But you're seeing the governor of New Jersey shutting it down. As far as sports teams, there's three NFL teams in California, and there are two in Texas and 3 in Florida. I can't really think that they're going to have, with everything that's been going on, I can't really think that they're going to have fans in the stands. That doesn't mean they can't have an NFL season. You've just got to decide where you want to go on this.
Yeah, I mean, I live in California, as most of you know, and we've just passed New York with the most cases, and we've kind of taken a step back. I mean, salons and everything are closed now. There's no indoor dining. I mean, we've taken steps back. Like, we were in the beginning place of step 3. We're now back in step 2. And I just can't see that things will change quickly enough to have a stadium full of people. I just don't think it's going to happen. Hopefully it will, because if it does, hopefully that means we're in a much better place around the country as far as cases. But I just wanted to get your feedback and your thoughts on, the safety part. Like, would you feel safe going with those measures? I think those are low bar measures. At the very minimum, I think you should at least do temperature checks. And the way we do temperature checks at my job, it's pretty quick. I mean, it is literally 2 seconds. And it's just you look into the little thing, bing, 2 seconds, you go. But I don't know.
The guy, I'm sorry, Lance. But the guy tailgating all day, drunk.
Yeah.
Going into the stadium.
Well, you can't tailgate. There'll be no tailgating. Just think about it, Bad. There won't be any tailgating.
Yeah, but they're still going to be. They're going to find a way to drink.
Yes, they'll just drink on North Avenue.
And you tell them, okay, you're 100. You can't go in. You don't think there's going to have to be tons of security on that?
Yeah,
they're going to be enforcing of masks is going to be tough. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're going to be on Western Avenue. They're going to be at Pepe's, drinking in the parking lot at 7-Eleven, and then walking into the stadium. When you want to get your drink, you will get your drink. But let's jump into the main topic of the program, and that's the question. And I got to look up the tweet that I sent you guys earlier from Pro Football Focus, and that's the question of, do analysts and the media still respect the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because I want to read this to you, and let me find it here, because what I've heard, it's mixed, right? And some people are high on the Steelers. It's kind of mixed. Like, it's definitely not the warm and fuzzy feeling that the media has about Kansas City or Baltimore. And let me read you what Pro Football Focus wrote about the Steelers when they did their prediction. Betting on Big Ben to return to a Super Bowl caliber past appears to be a losing proposition according to our simulation. Pittsburgh is significantly lower in our simulation than all listed betting odds. We have the Steelers win total slightly being below 7.5 wins. The best bet on the board is a plus money proposition for the Steelers to not make the playoffs. We are significantly lower than betting markets by giving them a 66.9% chance of not making the playoffs. Now, this is what Young Boy had to say. I'm going to read his comment. Then I want to get your comments bad on these comments from Pro Football Focus. Young Boy 24 said, "No, Lance, they're too busy riding Lamar's jock strap. LOL."
Lamar is the guy that, I mean, in 2 seasons, he's had a pretty good record. I realize that 0-2, everybody's going to bring up the 0-2, but he's had a pretty good record. He's done some exciting things. He is I'm not calling him the flavor of the month. I'm saying that he is that flavor that everybody is, he's a fad right now. Doesn't mean the fad's going to go away. Because when Pat Mahomes came in and finally, I mean, he was the new flavor too. And that's definitely, he's a top menu item now. Will Lamar become a top menu item? That still remains to be seen. You know what? Yeah, they're in love with this guy because he hasn't done anything for you to not be in love with. And when we just take our eyes off of them and look towards the Pittsburgh Steelers, the media and fans have never been in love with Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger could light the world on fire. He will not be your NFL MVP. In fact, it would be pretty hard to see him. I would be shocked if they win the Super Bowl and he's not, and he's Super Bowl MVP. I would think that it would be a wide receiver like it was with Santonio Holmes. When, you know, Hines Ward, Ben did nothing to garner being the Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 40. So I'm not saying that, but in Super Bowl 43, he really could have been the MVP. Santonio came up big in that last drive. But as far as everything goes, I thought he was overlooked. The media does not respect Ben Roethlisberger. Who did the media respect on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Dan Rooney. Do they respect R2? I don't know. So when Dan Rooney died, it almost feels like some things started to happen. You started having the Antonio Brown situation, the Le'Veon Bell situation, and that kind of tarnished the Men of Steel a little bit. So what happened there, coupling with the fact that the man that they respected more than anything, Dan Rooney, was gone, I don't think they really look at them as much as a top franchise now, as far as the media goes. But that could be changed.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be full disclosure here. I'm going to bare my soul on this show right now. It does not help in the media, or Ben's reputation is not aided in the media, when people like me take Ben to task all the time. Like, I have a really love-hate relationship with Ben Roethlisberger. And so that's why, like, when me and Jeff used to do the show, he loves Ben, I sort of like Ben, right? And so it kind of played well because he had 7 jerseys. I have no 7 jerseys, right? So I respect Ben as a player. I know some things about Ben personally that kind of soured my opinion of Ben. And also in his game, there's some things that are selfish about his game. I don't like the way he leads. So I think he takes enough shots from the fan base that maybe that leaks into the media perception of Ben. Also, I don't think the head coach, Mike Tomlin, gets enough respect. What he's accomplished is not necessarily appreciated by the fan base as well. It's mixed. So maybe it's the fault of the fan base for tarnishing the warm and fuzzy feeling that the media should have, in my opinion, about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Am I on to something?
You are onto
bad.
something, and I understand that what Ben did early on. I mean, he was arrogant. He was very arrogant early on, and it kind of followed him with a lot of the things that he did and a lot of the things that happened, and you can't erase that. As far as a player, somebody I didn't see who said it. Young boy said it. Ben isn't the most flashy player. That's why the media hates talking good about him. You know, so there's some things. There's some things there. But what I'm going to tell you, you mentioned Mike Tomlin. I think the media and the experts, for the most part, actually respect Mike Tomlin. You're right about the fan base. Then you have Terry Bradshaw coming out and
Yes.
always taking him to task and always on his back. Some fans have really soured on Terry Bradshaw again because of that, and really, I have a problem with it. We're also in a society, and you and I are aiding it as well. When everything that comes out, everybody is trying to beat everybody to the punch to have that
Right.
breaking story. And so, I mean, you can't pee in Pittsburgh or in the NFL without everybody knowing what color it is. You know, that's actually a quote from the movie Doc Hollywood. But that's really, you can't do anything these days. I've read books of Terry Bradshaw, stuff they did in training camp, Ken Stabler, the stuff the Raiders did in training camp, sneaking out and all this stuff was legendary. They can't do those same things now. We have social media where everything is just 24/7. Everything is on display. When we were kids, Lance, we wanted to be a superstar. We wanted to be an actor, a singer, an athlete. We wanted to be a star. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to be. You know,
Yeah, it's a different time, and we have Big Bro Sco in the live chat. Big up to Big Bro Sco, and Big Bro Sco will understand what I'm about to say, and so will you, Bad. We're of the age where I think it's weird when police officers arrest football players, Steelers, in fact. I'm from an era in which if a Steeler was at a bar, banged up, he could get a police escort home. That's the era that I'm from in Pittsburgh, where you had to do something like Ernie Holmes shooting out a helicopter, and he still played to not play. So it was kind of like, you kind of had a pass in Pittsburgh. The fan base took care of you. The cops took care of you. They kind of looked the other way. Let's get him home, so on and so forth. But it's different now. But the 7-9, do you think PFF was pretty hard in terms of how they're looking at the Steelers? And is that shade? Is that disrespect? Is there anything looking at the Steelers that makes you think that this is a 7-9 football team if Ben comes back healthy and is even still 85% of what he was in 2018? There's no way this team is 7-9. Am I off, Bad?
no, you know what? We've put those labels on us. Putting a label on me as a homer. I'm really not a homer. I'll tell you how I think it is and how I think they're going to do. But I've made a lot of predictions this year, which I think they're going to do really well. But you and we're looking at this team every single day. And anybody that just looks at it, they're looking at the fact that you had an 8-8 team last year, you had an 8-7-1 team the year before, and they're looking at an injury with Ben Roethlisberger, and that's all they're seeing. They're not looking at the inner workings of everything. They're not knowing what we know. They're not understanding what we've seen for year after year, and we really get a good feeling about a Pittsburgh Steelers team, and we know what they're doing. Pro Football Focus, so they put these grades on players. They'll put a really good grade on a player like Terrell Edmonds, or a guy that you'd be shocked has this great grade. Another guy, they'll give him a much lower grade that's actually a superstar, no matter who it is. So, you know what? Analysts could type everything in. They could do everything they want. But it's the play on the field. It's the heart pounding in the uniform. It's the will. And it's how you're led. This goes back to what we were talking about, how you're prepared. You could do everything on paper. You could be great on paper, but paper could be torn and crumbled. But they're the men of steel. They're going out there. So I don't worry about it whatsoever.
Let me read this comment from. I'm sorry, Bad.
Oh, not me. I said let them talk and let these guys play on the field, because the bottom line to it, if they feel disrespected, they're going to do so much better.
You see the comment from Reed Overhand, and this is what I'm talking about. Like Reed said, when I worked on the ambulance probably 7 years ago, I responded to a rollover accident where an ex-dealer rolled his truck drunk and the police drove him home before we even got there. I mean, that's the era that I kind of grew up, and I'm going to guess that it was probably not a special teams ace, that it was probably a guy that needed to start because the cops may have had a bet on the game that weekend. The one thing I will say about PFF is I appreciate the amount of time that they put in breaking down the tape. Because if you break down tape, and if you have done it, it takes me a long time to get through tape. I have to rewind it, rewatch it over and over and over again, just because sometimes it doesn't click as fast. Like if you're maybe a ex-college player, you're a scout or something like that, some of the things might hit fast, but when I see it, I see it. So I have to watch it, just a few more times. So it takes me a while to get through tape. And in getting through tape, I'm telling you, it is a labor of love, because you have to like it, because it's no sound. It takes a while to get through. So I give them their props for doing it and getting through it. And it's the eye of the beholder. But it's really hard to give a grade to a player because you don't know what the call is. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. You don't know what the call is. You don't know what the player was supposed to do. And so it's hard to just grade results, because there are times when you'll see funny grades where, let's say, a quarterback scrambles out of the pocket and hits a guy on a go route for a touchdown, right? From the naked eye, it looks like a great play. He made a great play. The receiver made a great play. But when you watch it on film, a lot of times he missed 3 receivers that were breaking open, right? He just missed them. And because he missed them, he had to improvise and make a play, and the play broke down and he hit the guy long, and it just resulted in a touchdown. That's a lot of times that's how it happens. And a guy will get a negative grade. The quarterback will throw a touchdown pass and get a negative grade on the play, because the way the play was called, he missed 3 of the reads and made the last read and totally improvised the play, but it was still a touchdown. A player that comes to mind when I think of that is Vince Young. When you watch Vince Young on film, Vince missed receivers all the time. He was just so good athletically, he can make something out of nothing. And, he'd scramble, he'd do whatever, make something out of nothing, miss a read. But because he could scramble, he'd get 25 yards out of it. And if you're just looking at it, you're like, well, that was a great play. Coaches looking at it are like, that was a terrible play. This guy was breaking open. If you hit this guy on time, you don't got to run 25 yards. Hit him next time, negative grade on the play. But I think the 7 and 9 is really low. And I think it speaks to kind of what you're saying, Bad, that we're so close to it that I think we have a better grasp of it. But check out this comment from Kathy. And what's your thought? She said, but we have confirmation bias. Always good to evaluate criticism. What's your thought? I think that's a very good comment from Kathy.
I think, I agree. We should definitely evaluate any criticism that's out there, and you take a look at it, and you put it out there. And what's your thoughts? Because I'm thinking that we could look at everybody from the outside. And of course, with confirmation bias, we see what we see, and because we're fans of the team, and because I'm a fan, I'm not an analyst. I'm just a fan that has a platform. So all I'm saying here is I'm using the eye test. You have these others that they're using formulas, And I just rely on my eye test because I've seen 42 years of eye tests. And that's where I know that they're going to be well. But you could always look at the fact that when there's smoke, there's fire, and there's things that the others might see because of stats. But I just go where what I know.
I mean, I think I think I'm inquisitive. I think my natural inquisitive nature makes me want to examine statements that I hear on TV about guys. And I love that the NFL has provided NFL Game Pass as a way to do that, because I think guys have a ton of biases, and I think analysts don't respect the Steelers like they used to. But I think part of that is due to the fan base as well, kind of, starting getting those embers going, and the national media kind of jumping on that. But yeah, I like to examine. Tape allows me to examine statements that are being made by people, and a lot of times they're not true. Sometimes they aren't true. I tend to come from, here's the funny thing about being the homer and the hater. I mean, I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm from the north side. I'm from Manchester. And we tend to be like, you got to show me, like, I got to see it, right? You got to prove it to me. I'm not just going to believe it because I want to believe it. And so that kind of resonates with kind of how I look at the game. So, to some extent, I think Kathy is right. We may have some confirmation bias. And, let me just read the definition of that for you guys. And that's the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs and or theories. And I'll extend that to sometimes people seek information that confirms their beliefs. So you won't go into an article like we did today, and I think we did a good job of that by looking at the PFF article, which severely criticizes the Steelers, or we'll just look for information that says, they're going to be 14-2, or they're going to be 13-3, they're going to be 15-1. As much as we want that, we probably know that that's not going to happen. So, I've always, my perspective is always be honest, give my honest opinion, and just lay it on the line. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, you do. As long as we're being respectful of each other and respecting the platform, we can just go back and forth on our opinions and have a good time about it. So answer the question, though, before we get out of here, though. Do you think analysts, now you could break it down, national, local, whatever, do you think they still, STEEL, respect the Steelers?
No. Absolutely, they do not.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I think the soup du jour are the Patriots. I think the Patriots get the respect that the Steelers used to get when everything that the Steelers, because you remember the time when the Steelers were just so good, they got the benefit of the doubt for everything.
Yep.
Like every free agent move was a good move. Every signing, everything they did was considered to be the best thing because it was the Steelers. And that's kind of what New England, and they've earned that. That team up north earned that by kicking tail over 20 years to where there's the phrase, "In Bill we trust." Anything that Bill Belichick does, whether it's deflate gate, whether it's signing a mass murderer, regardless, everything is seen as a great move from the Steelers, or excuse me, from the Patriots. So I believe I'm with you, Bad. I don't think the Steelers get that respect that they used to. But let me ask you this question. They win a 7th Super Bowl. I think it all comes back, and I think it comes back in spades. And then all of a sudden, they're the soup du jour, and everybody will love the Steelers. And Mike Tomlin will be a saint. It'll be Saint Tomlin.
Absolutely. And that's what will need to happen. There's a couple analysts out there that they still love the Steelers. There's a few that, there are guys out there that aren't off of the bandwagon, but I would still think that there's more that aren't on because it's been 12 years since they've won one. They've seen a lot of chaos. They've seen some things in between. They're just looking at that. They're not looking at the big picture. 51 years of glory since 1969, for the most part. They're not looking at that. They're just looking at the now. And that's all they're doing. And when you throw in guys defecting, maybe a few things here and there, some missed opportunities, they're, you know what, they don't look back. 12 years is ancient history for a lot of people.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got a daughter turning 13, so 12 years is, that's the
turning 13.
That's her lifespan. Congratulations. I mean, she's a Leo. She'll be turning 13 this weekend. They haven't won it in her lifetime. So, I mean, when you think of it that way, and when you have a guy like Patty Mahomes throwing to Tyreek Hill, I think Kathy is right, and big up to Kathy, survivor. The new darlings are the Chiefs. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. I like watching the Chiefs. I'm not a Chiefs fan. Chiefs play entertaining football. I mean, hey, you don't have to be like, it's the Chiefs play the type of football where you don't have to be a sommelier to appreciate that it's a good wine. All you got to do is sit back and watch them guys run all over the field, and he throw it all over the place, and you can recognize that's good offense. You don't need to mince it. There's no nuance there. I'm sure there's tons of nuance in what they call and all that stuff, but it's great to watch. And I think Dallas Quinley.
I was bringing Dallas Quinley up too, because I have something to elaborate on that.
Elaborate on that. Respect is spelled W-I-N. I couldn't say it better myself.
Absolutely. Hey, look, you don't need respect on the front end. You need respect on the back end. When it's all said and done, that's when you earn the respect and you take the respect back. And this Pittsburgh Steelers team, they're a team that could go ahead and seize the respect. And that's what I think 2020 is going to be. Hey, let everybody talk. Let everybody say Ben's elbow is done. Let Ben say when his elbow is done. You could say that, but what's beating inside Ben's chest is going to prove whether he's done or not. That's the same with everybody saying Juju's done. That's with everybody saying that James Conner can't last a full season. That very well could be true. But here's the thing. Was Joe Hayden done? Joe Hayden, a lot of people wrote Joe Hayden off. Joe Hayden's not done. And he's going to do everything he can to prove it. He's going to earn that respect. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers will do.
I'm laughing at awesome stuff. 1983. Might as well name your show Steelers du jour. We are looking for a name to replace the Homer and the Hater show. Keep throwing them in. I think there's a couple that me and Mike are throwing back to back, but Steelers du jour might be too complex for Pittsburgh. It might just be a little complex. I'm a North Side guy. We got to keep it straight. We got nothing too fancy. It's a meat and potatoes neighborhood and a meat and potatoes town. Keep it pretty straight. Bad. Before we get out of here, is there anything you want to tease on the show this week? What you got coming up in terms of articles, features, shows, anything? Let the listeners know what's coming up.
Actually, before I tease, I would like to pay my respects.
Yes,
pay my respects to somebody that Steeler Nation lost today. And he wasn't with the Steelers long, but I feel like I have a personal connection to Carlton Hasselrig, who passed away at the age of 54. As you know, I'm from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and I went to the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown, right around the same time that Carlton Hasselrig did. And if you don't know a lot about Carlton Hasselrig, he was a guy who changed wrestling. And how did he change wrestling? So, first of all, real quick, the Johnstown High School Trojans did not have a wrestling team, but they had a football team, and Carlton played football. But he ended up back at Pitt Johnstown, which is a Division II team, a Division II program, especially. Excuse me. And what happened was he won as a sophomore the Division II heavyweight championship in wrestling. This is a guy that has beaten Kurt Angle in his career. This is how good this guy was. When you won Division II, you got to jump up to Division I, and he won that as a sophomore. Did it again as a junior. Did it again as a senior. Six-time national champion. Pitt Johnstown did not have a football team. He was picked in the 12th round in 1989 by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He came in as a defensive lineman. He was on what they didn't call it the practice squad. They called it the developmental squad back in the late 80s, early 90s. He was on that squad, and they transformed him the very next year into his more natural position. And his natural position was an offensive lineman. A few years later, 2 years later, he is a Pro Bowler at the position. Now, he had a lot of things going on in his life, a lot of demons, a lot of things that kept him out of the game. He found some trouble. But in recent years, he did a very good job of putting his life together. And today they're calling it natural causes. He passed away at the age of 54. So as a University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown graduate who was just coming in right when he was leaving, I still crossed paths with him. I never had a problem with him. And he was a member of the Steeler Nation. And I just want to pay my respects to the Hasselberg family, to Steeler Nation. Rest in peace, Carlton.
Yeah, I want to give my condolences to Rig. We called him Rig. Rig was a really good friend of my cousin's. You know, you guys know I'm from Northside, from Manchester. So Rig used to hang out with my big cousins. And, you know, they used to rip and run throughout Pittsburgh. Rig was something. Rig was something. I'll just say this about Rig. Rig was the strongest, meanest dude I've ever met in my life. Like, he was a nice guy, but you didn't want to cross Rig because Rig was the strongest person I've ever seen in my life. And there was another football player that used to hang out. So, you know, my cousins used to hang out. He used to be Ironhead. He used to be Hasselrig, and he used to be Bigfoot, Lorenzo Freeman. He used to play for the Giants. Lorenzo Freeman was probably the biggest guy in the National Football League. Bigfoot was about 6'8", maybe 360. And, you know, these guys used to wrestle. I mean, they're physical guys. So, you know, we used to be wrestling around, right? And I saw Carlton Hasselrig lift Lorenzo Freeman, 6'8", 360 pounds, above his head and put his feet through a roof. He was literally the strongest guy I've ever seen. Amazing athlete. I mean, Rig was just like a superhero type dude. Like, Rig was just ridiculous. So, you know, R.I.P. to Rig, Carlton Hasselrig. I mean, he was definitely an incredible guy. And Steeler Nation lost a real one. You know, if I could say anything about Rig was a real one. And no, he did not help me kill Tupac. No, he did not help me kill Tupac. And no, I did not kill Tupac. And if you guys don't know that, that's a long story about me and Tupac.
I've never even heard the story. So one of these days you're gonna have to tell me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you the story about me and Tupac. But definitely R.I.P. Big Rig. I mean, Rig was a fearsome guy and a great player. And I'm glad to hear that he got his life together at the end. Definitely what he accomplished, and there will never be a 6-time national wrestling champion. That'll never happen again.
You know, we talk about the Mel Blount role. We talk about the Hines Ward role. They made a Carlton Hasselrig role, and you could never do that again. You could never win 6 titles. But doing that is one of the greatest accomplishments in sports.
I'm telling you, Rig could lift a mountain. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Rig was, hey, just step to the side. Do not mess with Rig. Like, Rig was like, he was just another type of guy. I'll just say that. But, you know, God rest his soul. You know, an awesome individual. But with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude the program. Again, big up to you, Bad, on your 17th anniversary of becoming a survivor. Big up to you.
Thank you.
Big up to Kathy as well. You guys kicked it in the rump. And you guys are part of a great sorority and fraternity of cancer survivors. And again, bad, do something bad. Kathy, do something bad as well. And, hopefully I can give you guys a virtual shot or something. I want you guys to bring it Cabernet, Johnny Walker Blue, something, man. Do something really fun because this is a significant day for both of you. We appreciate both of you. Steeler Nation appreciates both of you. BTSC appreciates both of you. But with that, we're going to conclude the program. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.